This is Kelly Johnson and
Sam Christopher,
writers of episode 719, the Kazanjian Brothers.
You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Well, I'm as happy as a seagull with a French fry with this finale. Welcome back to the award-winning The Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson, and I'm ready to get animated. Thanks for joining us yet again for number 156 and number 157 on the Blacklist, the Kazanjian Brothers, and they were written by Kelly Johnson and Sam Christopher, illustrated by the team at proofinc.com out of London and Atlanta, edited by Chris Brookshire and Elise Holloway, who you're going to hear from a little bit later, and directed by Michael Carocciolo. Show notes and intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found where at theblacklistexposed.com.
Clearly had to include everybody in this effort because, man, this was a lot of work for those people, and so glad to see all the faces at the end of the episode that make the Blacklist happen each and every week. That was really fun, and the actors on the top half of the show. Just telling everybody about what happened and what they're going to experience. It was kind of cool.
I love that. And we're going to talk about all of that when we get into the actual episode. So I just want to get there. Let's go. Let's get your nonsense out of the way.
If you're new because you're like, man, I just wanted to watch this animated thing and see what everybody's talking about. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed. I'm Troy Heinrichs. He's Aaron Peterson. And what we basically do is break it down like this. We have a profiling question from last week where people took a poll and answered that question. And then we get into what we call the case profile, where we talk about the episode, like, didn't like, character breakdown. We don't really do a play-by-play. We do more of like, where have the characters progressed in the course of the season? And then we go ahead and move into what usually is our special agent intel section, but we've foregone that this week because instead we're going to be bringing you an interview with the people that edited this episode together. That is right. Chris Brookshire and Elise Holloway are going to be here to talk to you about how all the magic happened. And then we're going to actually take your feedback on the episode next week because we're going to have our season wrap-up interview with the creator, John Bokenkamp. So get your comments in on the Facebooks and the Twitters at the Blacklist GSM is what you need to do to find the tags in those social places. We'll get all of your feedback, and we'll talk about that in our episode next week.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the editor's interview. I mean, honestly, I love John to death, but it's a rarity that editors get their fair share in the limelight. Just to let you guys know, the interview is really exciting. I can't wait till we get there. Editing is something that is really personal to my heart because I really do appreciate the behind the scenes of filmmaking, and a lot of times they don't get their fair share in the limelight. So I'm glad that they are here because it's quite a feat they had to pull off with the animators. And you know, just like, and we've covered all of them, writers, special effects crew, I mean, and now editors. I think it's great that we have a canvas where we can talk to those guys that do all this amazing work. And it's a really cool interview. You guys are going to like it.
Yeah, I applaud him. I'm a broadcasting major. I got out of the video business and went straight to audio because it's easier. So kudos to those guys for taking on the hard job.
It's all cumbersome. Let's put it that way. You know what? Let's see how you guys answered our profiling question from last week. Will Red and Katarina face off in the finale?
We are 66-33. Yes. I have been waiting all season for this.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but they face lapped. They didn't face off. Does that count?
Bravo. Face lapped. That's so funny.
She's on there heavy petting Red's head, and while he's passed out, and apparently forgets he's in the car. I don't quite understand that part, but yeah, face lapped, didn't face off.
Becky Trumbo said, adding a foot stomp and darn it to my yes vote because she just wants an answer. And Dee Elliott said, if this would have been a traditional season in 22 episodes, I think it would have happened, but with it getting cut short, I don't know if they'll get it in. It may continue into next season. So she's on the no side from Dee Elliott.
And by the way, I'm letting you know, when we get to the end of our case profile stuff, I'm going to throw down 3 questions for you, and you have to give me yes, or where you are, yeses or nos. Your firm answers. You can't do your lexical ambiguity.
Well, so you're being lexically ambiguous. I don't know if you were asking the audience that you were going to throw down 3 questions for them, or if you're asking me.
You.
Okay.
You and I have to make a decision.
All right. I will answer your 3 questions with a question.
We did this to the end of last season too, I think, but I'm going to do it.
Question. All right.
Choice question. I'll answer it too, but I just want choice question, and I'm not giving you any wiggle room. You got to give an answer because that's what you'll do. You'll answer four ways, and everything counts.
It's like the polls have been. Yes, no. Okay. I will. I promise.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for responding to all the profiling questions this season. Now, before Aram gives Red our location, let's go ahead and get to this week's case profile.
It's kind of a bitch move, right?
It was.
It was kind of a bitch move. Yeah.
I was shocked.
Didn't even try to hold that information a little bit around, really? I mean,
at least you could have been on the phone in Cooper's office and said it out loud at the same time. That way, at least it would have been a fair start, you know?
That's funny. All right, well, we open with the Kazanjian brothers who provide security to criminals, kidnapping/saving an accountant for criminals, Frank Merwin. And he holds his briefcase that we come to find out later is full of his personal protection.
Or confetti.
Or confetti, whatever it was. It was animation, so you didn't see the unique details, but that was a cool scene, by the way.
It was.
The brothers work for Katarina and were born in prison, children of an inmate. Raised on the streets with a Z, they are now bodyguards for criminals. They're supposed to pay Van Ott, I believe, and that information is going to lead to the brothers getting caught. It's what actually happens. And eventually they get taken for a ride. Now, I take that to mean dead. You?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. You know what? With you, Troy, I always have to ask.
The answer is yes.
In your mind, next year they might come back as the Kazanjian sisters. I don't know. All right, so Merwin is an MIT graduate.
I take that back because Red had that conversation with them in the little holding cell.
Okay.
And it made it sound like he would actually hire them if he wasn't going to kill them. So there is a potential that he could actually hire them. So they might be back and they're just hanging out with Chuck and Morgan.
Taken for a ride. For a ride. They're just driving around until they make that decision. You guys want to work for me? Here, think about it. We're just going to drive around in a circle. That's what you're thinking?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, we didn't actually see them die, so technically they could come back. I really dug those guys.
I thought they were fun.
Yeah, they were really fun. That shootout scene, animation or not, man, I was really immersed in that. And we'll definitely come back to the animation specifically because it's actually going to be one of our characters this week.
The Van Ott sequence, I'm assuming that was the brothers paying Katarina her share of the bounty from Townsend.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was it went to one account, but the other account, I'm wondering who that second account was for. Who's Katarina have to pay? Or is that a college fund for Agnes?
That's a good question. Because according to Red, she means trouble for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean she's still bad news? We don't know. We won't know until next year. And we don't know when next year will be. Still. Thanks, Corona. Well, what are you going to do? So anyway, what did you think of the Kazanjian brothers as basically the centerpiece to get this thing going?
When I saw that they were going to be 156 and 157, I was kind of disappointed because we've been in that 150s range for most of the season. And I'm like, come on, the finale isn't even like a top 20.
Well, it wasn't the intention, though.
Right. But then when you saw the episode, you're like, oh, these guys are just kind of side players. They're really not part of the thing. So I think the way that they were able to get to Maddie Tolliver, Katarina Rostova, via the Kazanjian brothers, I thought that was a great play. The hotel sequence we'll talk about, fantastic. This Merwin guy, though, I still don't understand what was the deal between him and the chess guy. Yeah, the chess guy just get him documents to get him out of the country to protect him, or was the chess guy a criminal? And
I think he was getting him out of there. Yeah, that was a little murky for me too. And some of that, to be perfectly honest, and it's not like the animation was a problem, but some of it had to do with my personal adjustment to live action to animation, where I lost a story point or two while I was watching it. And not that anything was poorly done or anything. I actually think it was handled excellently. But there were moments where the story, I'm like, wait, who's that guy again? Where I just lost that in train of thought. Because I don't think that guy looked like his guy very much.
I gotcha. The animation guy didn't look like the real
Not as much,
actor,
yeah.
Not as much. What I think was happening was the briefcase that was tied to Merwin, that was his briefcase for his protection so that his clients didn't kill him.
Yeah, it was. It had all the information, all the documentation to keep him safe, essentially.
Right. It wasn't him delivering the briefcase to the chess guy.
No.
But for some reason, he had to go to the chess guy in order to get something, which then we found out is his new passport, his new identity in another country.
Yeah, he's trying to get out.
He was trying to get out.
That was his exit plan.
God, maybe that's it. It was his exit plan.
Yeah.
And he was getting out of helping the criminals, not actually continuing to help the criminals.
I don't think not necessarily getting out of helping the criminals. What happened was his daughter tipped him off and he knew he had to get out of there. So he was arranging his exit.
Oh, yeah. See, there was a weird transition there because he's on the phone in the hotel or wherever they were talking to the daughter. And then the next clip, you see him outside again in New York talking to the chess guy and said, hey, plans have changed. I remember that now. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So he was escaping because of the fact that his daughter tipped him off.
So you've been doing all this extra Blacklist stuff and you totally forgot what happened in the actual episode.
Very possible.
It is very possible. Well, Merwin is an MIT graduate who's on the radar, but never had a case made against him. And by his conversation with Liz and Ressler at the end, he knows he'll be able to walk pretty soon, which I thought was a pretty interesting conversation because he's basically just throwing it in their face like, I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about me. I did think, we mentioned it a little bit ago, but his move with throwing documents into the helicopter blades, which I believe John had alluded to in an interview, they wouldn't have been able to do without the animation, probably because, renting a helicopter ain't cheap. But that was a really cool way to dispose of the evidence in a very quick manner. And I kind of thought that was a great moment in the episode. Not
to mention all the litter that they would have cleaned up in the park or wherever they would have.
It's throughout the woods. And as they were going up, as you saw, like the helicopter was pulling it up and spreading it out. So it was all over the forest by that point. Good luck.
Yeah, so I think that scene actually worked better because we had the animation. Because I don't know how you would have gotten out of that easily. You just had a simple, get down on the ground, arrest him, and the briefcase is still attached to him, and then they cut it off and they get the briefcase. Mm-hmm. So I think it was much better in the animation style for that part.
Yep, I really dug it. It was really good. He knows all you feds aren't as squeaky clean as you want people to think you are. That was kind of funny because I'm like, neither one of these two are. What are you talking about?
I'm sure you guys will be fine. You'll be fine.
You guys will be fine. So that's the basic episode. Now, before we get into all the characters and kind of what the gist of what happened, what did you think of, here's the trick, because for people that don't realize this, and believe it or not, there are a lot of people that don't realize this. This wasn't intended to be the finale. The finale is intended to be in 3 more episodes. So this is actually episode 719. The finale would have been 722. So you had 3 more episodes to fill in some more blanks. So there's a lot of story that was meant to come that I'm sure we'll still get. We'll just get it next year. But so they had to make this episode the finale. And that's why they used the animation as they explained. So it was never intended to be a big blacklister. You were talking about the numbers. I have no doubt that whoever the finale would have been really about would have been a much higher number. It just didn't work out that way because of circumstances beyond their control. As far as I'm concerned, I think everything came together as well as it could have. The episode worked great. It's one of those episodes of TV that'll probably live on in the history books because of what they accomplished here. Maybe you're looking at it going, well, it's not Toy Story animation. Yeah, Toy Story takes 5 years. So they've got, they've had 5 weeks, as you'll hear about in the interview. They had 5 weeks to get this thing done. And honestly, it's amazing. They got moving lips. And honestly, I thought Liz's character looked spot on. There were moments where I'm like, wow, they really nailed her.
Yeah, I thought Park was pretty close. Ressler was a little bit weird. Red definitely had a little bit of blockiness to him, but there's a lot of it where you can forgive because the acting and the writing is so good. So even that scene in the kitchen where she's yelling at him and Red's like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Like, don't yell at me. You're not even worried about the animation at that point. You're just listening to the dialogue and focused on the dialogue. And then, of course, the bottle falls and you're like, wait, is he going to land on the glass? Move the glass out of the way before he lands.
That's really what you thought? That's where your mind goes.
Well, the second time I watched it, I saw there was a piece of glass on the floor and I was like, that's exactly where Red's going to land because I saw the episode once already. And so the second time I'm like, did he land when he landed on the glass?
There's so many things about you that I don't understand. That being one of them.
It goes to weird. My mind goes to weird places.
It sure does. I really dug the episode.
Honestly, though, I had no problem with the animation at all. I thought the transitions in between.
I dug it. I didn't just not have a problem with it. I dug it. I thought it was really fun.
I was not taken out of the episode in any way, shape, or form.
I was when it first happened, just because I'm like, oh, because I don't know why, but as soon as they did the intro with, actually, maybe it was the intro with.
It was the intro that kind of threw me out more than the animation.
That's where I kind of got thrown off more than the animation, because I'm like, wait, why are they talking to me like they're real people? Are they real people? I bet some of you are like, they're actors.
You don't want to like Monday morning quarterback it, but it's like because you've seen interviews with like Harry and Diego. I mean, Harry's been doing some kind of a blog. Where he's been talking to his people on Facebook, right? And when I saw,
I don't know that. Good for him. That's cool.
When I saw the shot, I was like, "Wait, that's Harry. That's not Cooper. Like, what's going on here?" Like my brain kind of went to a different place. So maybe I would have done that first, and then went into the Liz monologue to do the transform sequence because it seemed like it was kind of a abrupt cut. Like that they did it, but from a storytelling perspective, maybe you would have just switched those two around. And just gone right into the episode and let it run. I
liked it because you got Amir playing with his dog, and that was adorable. So, hey, I thought
it was great to see Raina. I was like, Raina.
It was a very nice thing that they did that, and like I said, we'll come back to that. But yeah, overall, great episode. I do think they're going to talk about this for a long time. There's going to be people that don't like it because it's jarring, and I get that. It's not what you're used to. But I've watched it a couple times now, and I find it immersive. I find it engaging. I really like how they incorporated the real comic book panel information, how they act 1, act 2, all that. And when someone's thinking, they're thinking intently and considering the outcome. And that's what he told the doctor. Just little things like that I just thought were great touches. The blam and the pow or whatever.
And the to be continued at the end, just like you'd go into issue 2 of the next.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you might get an issue 2. You never know.
You never know. Now, here's a question I did want to ask you. Did you wish that this would have been all animation, like the whole episode? Would that have made any changes for you in how you rated it? Even though we already liked it, but would you prefer the whole episode was animated?
I don't think it mattered one way or the other to me, to be quite honest.
Okay, I'm just asking.
I mean, I think the better question is, would I watch a fully animated version? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely.
Yeah. I thought it was well enough that it didn't. I'm more interested in the story. I mean, granted, I want to see Spader act. I want to see Megan act. I want to see Amir act and all that stuff, right? Because they bring something to the characters. But after 7 years, like, we know these characters. We know the mannerisms. We know how the speech patterns go. So I don't want to see just straight panels. I think that'd be kind of boring for a television show perspective. So the fact that they had movement and they had depth of field in this animation, I think that you could do the same animation and do 13 episodes next season, and it'd be great, right?
Of an animated series?
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be great. I wouldn't watch it. I don't watch animated shows.
You're missing out.
I would watch a movie. I'm weird like that. Like animation, when it comes to animation, I like movies that are animated. I have a hard time watching TV shows that are animated. I just don't want to watch it every week. It's like Family Guy. Sure, there's some funny stuff. They do some really mean Michael J. Fox jokes that I laugh inappropriately at, but they do some mean stuff, but there's some funny in there. But I just can't watch it because of the animation style. It just, after I watch one episode, I'm good.
Well, I think that's part of the challenge. Just me. Is there's animation and then there's something more, right? So like Clone Wars.
No, trust me, I'm telling you, everybody that likes animation always makes the sales pitch. I loved it until I was about 25 years old, and I haven't gone back. It's just, I like it in doses. I just don't want to watch a whole TV show on it.
No, you're missing out.
No, I'm good.
You're missing out.
I'm good. No, I promise you, I'm good. I've seen a lot of great animated works. I've seen a lot of animated movies and little things here and there. This episode I thought was great. It's a great one-off. I don't want a cartoon though.
It's not a cartoon. That's the thing. It's not a cartoon. Cartoon is like Dad. Saturday morning cartoons. Family Guy is like a cartoon. Simpsons is a cartoon. It's written in the cartoon style. When you look at things like when you look at things like the Clone Wars or Rebels or things
I've seen the Clone Wars. Or it'd be silly.
3D animation style. Like this was 3D animation style. It's not a cartoon.
Look, Troy, you just get off my lawn. I'm not interested. I'm just not. It's great. I love that people love this style of work, and I don't poo-poo it at all. It's just not for me. I love comic books. I would still read a comic book today. Pick it up tomorrow. I've got stacks of them that I'm going to give my son when I finally kick over. He can have them. But I just don't want to watch an animated show. Just me. Just choice. I love animated movies, though. I'm going to watch Scoob this weekend. For me. I don't have any little kids. My kids are grown. They're out. I'm watching Scoob for me. But it's a movie. And
it's also historical context because we grew up with it.
It's historical context because it's the greatest cartoon to ever have lived. Yes. Yes. Does that count? Like if Scooby-Doo would have popped up in this would have been the best episode of The Blacklist ever.
When Red's on his acid trip, laying his head in Katarina's lap.
Or at the very end, Liz just pulls up one of the Kazanjian Brothers' heads and like, and they're like, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you meddling Liz. I feel like we're way off path. No,
but it's good. I think the animation was good.
It really was. So, when this was first announced, what were your concerns about the animation? Because we're into characters and the animation is part of it. So were you concerned about it at all, or you had faith? I had faith, so I assume you did too. I
had faith that it would be good enough to air. I was concerned that I was like, 5 weeks? Like, what are they going to do in 5 weeks? Yeah. That was the part where I was a little bit nervous because I was like, well, let's just make it panels. Like, please just make it panels and then have the panels like slide across the screen or something. I mean, it didn't really work for the Hulk movie, the first one with Ang Lee.
Oh, God.
But
why'd you have to go there? I don't know why that isn't happening.
That was the first one that came to mind that seemed like it was like in a panel style, right?
I just had a knee-jerk reaction to that theater experience.
But yeah, I think that was the thing. I was like panels with voiceover. I don't know. I think I'd rather just see the actors do the voiceover. You know,
it's funny. In the Hulk movie, that was the best part of the whole movie, though.
It was. That's true. Yeah.
So that did work in that movie. The movie didn't work.
So the fact that we actually got 3D animation, I was like, wow, that's really impressive in 5 weeks.
In 5 weeks, it was very impressive. I was stunned that they got. I mean, some of it looked great. I really loved how the end, especially the end with Liz, where she's talking to Dom and leaving the area and walking up the stairs and going outside and having her Batman moment. That was just well done. I really was impressed with how Liz was captured. I really feel like they captured the essence of Megan.
And the transformation to the warrior gene coming out.
Yeah, possibly. And I really, now you and I have talked about this before, but the hotel scene with Ballroom Blitz playing and like legitimate shock that they killed that woman or shot that woman. She didn't die. Sorry. What? She had kidney surgery. I was stunned. I actually jumped up and said, whoa, they shot her. I couldn't believe that they shot her. I was immersed in that whole scene. I thought it was really fun.
I was waiting for her to shoot one of the brothers, to kind of draw the hostage away. Yeah. And then when they shot her in the back, I was like, oh my God, they shot her in the back and went in the elevator. Like, that was a twist I wasn't expecting. And the whole sequence, like, she's running down the stairs, she gets out and, kicks the door open and they're driving in the car, pulling away. I mean, all of it was just riveting. Like, I'm like, you guys did this in 5 weeks? That's amazing.
Yeah, that was really cool.
We should mention the Proof, the company that did this, based out of London, and they have an office in Atlanta, proof-inc.com. What this company does is they do pre-movie rendering. So when you watch, say, Endgame, right, Avengers, and you're seeing all that great stuff in Endgame, like, this is the company that basically puts that together in a computer animation so that the directors and people can visualize what it could look like before they actually go do the filming and the shooting and the pre-rendering and all of that fun stuff. Yeah, like storyboards. Uh-huh. And so these guys, their work never gets seen ever by people outside of those, heads of studios and things of that nature. So this is a great boon for them to be able to have their work featured on network television.
I'm telling you, I think people are going to be talking about this episode for a long time. Maybe one of those things that pop up in favorite episodes of TV shows, like the Buffy musical episode and a lot of other things. I love when you have tragic circumstances that spark creativity, which often happens when a character passes away, which should lead us to at least mention Brian Dennehy's character. Even though Brian Dennehy did pass away, God rest his soul, his character still lives at the end of this episode. So Dom is still out there. I don't know how they're going to address that, but Dom as a character is still going to be in the Blacklist universe. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that yet.
I did come over to your side of the fence after the second watch. On the first watch, immediately when she was like, and I'm going to do anything to anybody who stands in my way. And I was like, did she just kill her grandfather?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she did not kill her grandfather. That'd be a dark twist. Yeah, because some people say the warrior gene is also the murder gene.
I would have loved that twist. I mean, it would have been probably harder to digest given the real life circumstances, but it would have been a cool twist regardless.
But when that whole sequence starts, she's like, when you and Red, it definitely sounds like she's not going to kill him at that moment. But yeah, when she was like, anybody that stands in my way, I was like, damn, that's kind of dark. Wait, did you just kill her grandfather? I bet you there's people out there that are thinking it. They're probably thinking that actually happened. Your wife even thought about it, if I remember.
My wife thought it. Yeah, she was arguing with me. I'm like, no, it's not blood on her hand. It's her scar. She's had that scar in the entire series. Simmer down. Breathe. And also, love, before we get in, we need to get into the rest of the characters, but the cast and crew that they used to introduce and close the episode, that was a really nice touch. I love seeing everybody at the end, because that's a lot of people that work behind the scenes that you never hear from or get to see. And it was really cool that they made sure to incorporate them into the episode. And it's just all around. It just feels like this was a love letter both to the fans and also to the staff, and saying, we trust you. We have faith in you. We can pull this off. This weird, crazy thing we're going to do. We can pull this off. And they did.
Yeah, it was really fun knowing that what we've tried to do on this show specifically over the years is feature all the people you don't see, right? We have the writers introduce the episodes so that their names get out there. We interviewed, Cord Hessler, the stunt guy. We interviewed Dave Porter, the music guy, John Bissell, the other music guy. We pull these people up because they're the people that are like the unsung heroes of the show, and have all those and we interviewed the editors in the episode, in this episode coming up, to get those unsung heroes and get them their limelight at the end of this episode. I thought was a great move, especially over Paint It Black.
Great job, team. Yay. All right, what else we got? Let's talk about the actual characters that were in the show that we saw that had a whole bunch of stuff happen, because we ain't going to talk about them for another whatever months. Can't even throw a timestamp on there. I don't know. Nobody knows yet.
But music, we always talk about music on the show as being a character, and this week I think it played out really well. We already mentioned Ballroom Blitz by Sweet during the hotel scene, when Liz and Wrestler find the brothers by the elevator. And then, of course, when Liz turns into Batman, we hear Painted Black from the Rolling Stones. And you can hear all of those on the playlists. We have links to those at theblacklistexposed.com, both Spotify and Apple. Links to both of those over there, whichever music service you subscribe to.
Kind of surprising. Those were two popular songs. Usually, they're digging in to find out some weird ones, but which are great because I, get to add new things to my Spotify list. But those are classics right there.
Well, I think the cool thing about Ballroom Blitz specifically is the way the sequence goes down. You don't get a lot of dialogue, and you just get those panel pop-ups. Like, she senses something's wrong. Oh, he gave something away because his silence says everything. So you get more of the music, which has more vocal in it. Because a lot of times we get some of the songs on the Blacklist, and it's more of a softer, or there's a lot of music backing, and then as they pause,
undertones,
you'll get the singing during the pause, and then the singing goes away.
Right.
So to get more of that amped feeling, I thought it's great. And, I don't know how much this cost to put together, but maybe they had extra budget because they had less cost, in making it all
$1 billion.
I don't know. I'll check both my accounts. I'll see how much money was in there.
Yeah, I'm sure they went to you for a loan. All right. So of the characters that were in the episode, Brimley makes a return in animated form. That was cool. That was a nice little ad.
And I think it's probably one of his best torture scenes on the show so far, to be quite honest. I laughed. He comes out with the tape recorder, and I literally had a butt gust belly laugh. I'm like, that's brilliant. You're expecting him to come out with like a snake or some other weird
or board games
or llama or whatever. It is like, it's just a tape recorder.
Yeah. Your brother's fine. Simmer down. We didn't do anything. We're going to kill you later. Park in this episode, she's on the case. She does get beat by Dembe, but that's really about it for this particular episode. I don't really think much else happened with her character this week.
Yeah, no, pretty much just normal police procedural stuff.
Wrestler, a lot of time talking to Liz about what she should or shouldn't do without really giving any clear direction to her, which I prefer that, because he told her what the right thing to do was, and it was her choice, and she elected to go Batman.
Just remember, don't have your phone out when Wrestler's nearby.
Why?
Because I'm going to need your phone. Such a like. Could you be any creepier to the kid? Mommy, why is the Batman scaring me?
Cooper scolds Red, barks some orders, and said this line, which, of course, I'm just going to throw out there because I know you really latched onto it like you always do. Said, I'm serious. You can't touch your mother. And Red said, and I won't. You have my word.
Yep.
And why does that stand out to you, Troy? Please do tell. I don't care, but I know you do.
Because unless he's got his father or something doing the whole hit your head on the thing, he's like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? He can't hurt himself. He's his own person because Red just might be Katarina.
Mm-hmm. Boy, you really just can't pick a side on that argument, can you?
They keep throwing the lexical ambiguity out there to make it be plausible.
Or it could just be a freaking line.
It could be.
Could just be a line. Could just be, hey, don't touch it. And he's like, I won't. That's not my plan. I got a different plan now. Could it not be that?
It is the Blacklist. So
could be that. I'm just saying. All right, Aram, he gives Red the name and location of Stanley Birch, the chess store owner, and out of a desire to, live. And yeah, still saying it's a bitch move, Aram. Sorry, you gave it up way too quick, man.
That was a good line, though. It was delivered well. And I feel bad because Cooper and Aram are the two that didn't get animated characters in the episode. And I think that's mostly because of the way the show is filmed, right? They film it on set, and usually they do that on a specific day of the week. So during their 9-day shooting schedule, they usually do the set work right away at the beginning. And so that's most of the set work you see there. All the live action stuff was mostly done in the post office. And so since Cooper and Ram never leave the post office, they were able to get all of their stuff done live action versus getting their animated versions. But it would have been cool just to see like Cooper and Aram having a bourbon or something at the end in animated form.
Animated bourbon?
Yeah.
Can you get drunk on animated bourbon?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't think you
Scratch
can.
and sniff?
It reminds me, I had bourbon ice cream. It was pretty boozy. I'm convinced if I eat that whole quart, I'll get drunk. It's going to be like Mardi Gras at my house. I don't know why I brought that up, but now I'm hungry.
Watch the watch party. We'll see what happens.
I will have a beverage there. Dembe, he's taking the lead on the torture and questioning the brothers. Brimley, he comes out with, like Troy said, one of the best twists of the episode. Dembe gets to the Kazanjian brothers first, by the way, and they use them to make a move to get to Katarina.
I find this interesting because when you think about...
They tried to use
them to get
to,
But the autonomy that Dembe has in this episode, given the fact where we left off Roy Kane, where he was willing to spill all the secrets, and Red just is like, listens to the Imam, gives him another forgiveness pass and all that other fun stuff. So it really shows that Red has full confidence in Dembe, that he's just like, hey, Dembe, you go take care of this. I got other stuff to do. And he had to because Red was passed out from his illness. So the question goes, why didn't Red leave the kingdom to Dembe instead of leaving it for Liz?
Well, we'll find out next year.
Maybe.
We'll find out next year. All right. Here's what we've been waiting to get to. These particular characters. Katarina. She's having Liz followed, which leads Liz right back to Katarina. And their first encounter revolves around Katarina discussing with Liz sides and alluding to why the Townsend directive is after her. We find out later. And she says very specifically, I'm your daughter. And Katarina says, but are you on my side? How did you feel about that particular conversation?
That someone says when they're not your mama?
Okay. Did you get anything else from it besides that?
No, I think she's just much like Red, right? If you're a criminal and you're trying to see where loyalties lay, she's testing Liz's loyalties in that moment. Like, just because you're family doesn't mean anything. I mean, she shot her dad, put her dad in a coma, if it's her dad. And then, so family doesn't mean anything to this particular woman playing Katarina Rostova.
That's what I got too. Yeah, I didn't read, because I'm not stuck on this is going to fit my perfect theory every time. That works. It works both ways, sure, but sometimes you got to take things at face value too. I think she's just testing the waters.
Or sometimes it just keeps working that it can go both ways.
There's been a lot of things that go against it too, but I'm not doing that today. So she saves Red's life. It was pretty funny that Liz called and asked for her help when Red was dying. Like, that's the first thought she had, which is weird since they were at great on odds.
But she knew that she needed a car quickly, and she knew that she was being followed.
No, I get it. It was quite a surprise. I'm like, oh, wow, that's what's going to happen here. And then we had the lap off.
And the fact that Red is that distraughtly gone with his illness that he doesn't even realize whose car he's in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I was right, I'd be furious when I came to. It's like you, who picked me up? Why did you do that? Blah, 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 blah. But remember, he doesn't raise his voice, so maybe that's why he didn't yell at her later, or he truly doesn't remember, and his condition is that bad.
True, and I don't. I'm still. You know what? Don't forget. Come back to the whole "I don't raise my voice" thing, because I'm just like, what does that mean? There's plenty of abusive behaviors done without raising your voice, man. It happens all the time. And sorry, I'm not a big fan of this whole way you handle it. I'm not. Anyway. All right. So, we find out exactly what she's looking for. And here's what it is. She needs a Sokorski archive. It's a blackmail file. She's been accused of stealing it. Red knows who did, and that also that she didn't. She knows he can save her life, but chooses not to. So yes, there's a reason why she won't just kill him. Obviously, because there's a history there of some sort. They have a relationship of some sort. So no matter what you want to think, these two have a relationship. That seems pretty plainly clear to me. Would you agree with that? Of some sort. I
would agree with that. There was something in their past that have connected these two, clearly because they kissed at the end of season 6.
Mm-hmm. So the bounty is on her head until she's dead, or she can prove she doesn't have it. One question I have in regards to that was, she was already dead. So why resurface and risk this if the bounty's already, or she just needs it cleared completely?
Well, I think this, number one,
so she can resurface and live life.
It comes up because it happens after Belgrade. So after Belgrade, Katarina Rostova is alive because Dom positioned everybody at Belgrade to try to prove that Katarina was dead. When they see that she doesn't blow up in the car, everybody knows she's alive, so it puts a target on her back in that moment. And then maybe something else happens that we don't know of, right, off Screensville in the last 30 years, where she ends up disappearing again, so she goes off of Townsend's radar. And it was only until Liz started bringing up the Townsend stuff again with Wrestler that Townsend becomes aware that she's alive again. So that handles the Townsend side of it. Now the Sokorski Archive side of it sounds like it's a different thing than the Townsend stuff. And it's probably just some botched job that happened, which makes me go, well, then what does this have to do with Katarina Rostova? It seems like she'd be more crafty and clever about all that from what we know of Katarina in the past, which doesn't mean anything now. But this pushes us in the direction, it pushes me in the direction at least.
Okay. At least you clarify that, because I'm tired of us. It's not us.
But this pushes me in the direction of, this is not Katarina Rostova. This is someone that was trained by Dom, which she clearly stated in this episode. Mm-hmm. Dom trained me, brought me up, and then betrayed me. Don't know why he would betray his own daughter when he has such, affirmation for his daughter in every scene that we've seen him in. And then we have the challenge then of, she's here with this archive, and it's like, well, what does that have to do with KGB, Cabal, Townsend, the history, the disappearing? Like, none of that just fits in. So it just screams like this is another person that's not Katarina Rostova, but it's the person that was framed to be Katarina Rostova by Dom and Ilya.
Okay, so that's what you got from that.
Yes.
Gotcha. Well, I'm trying to save his life, even though he won't lift a finger to save mine. Katarina let Liz pass Red's test. In my mind, she used that pretty skillfully, where Liz called her and said, hey, don't do that. And she's like, well, then you'll be found out. And you could see it in her eyes that I could still use this to my advantage if I play this out, which is how it felt like it played out.
Right, because now Red assumes Liz is on Red's side, but really she's on her mom's side.
Right, and quote, Red can't defend against that. So who did she pay with that first account? That might be the key.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Might be the key. Might be the key behind everything. Behind everything.
Because if it's Agnes's college account, then we know it's really Katarina.
Right. And the Sokorski Archive, I don't think that's very complicated. It's a blackmail file. It was stolen. Red, my guess, probably Red stole it. Or at least he knows who has it. Well, she said clearly she thinks he does.
So what we do know now is that it's not about some guy who made airplanes back in the 20s.
No, she's been accused of stealing it, and it's a very powerful blackmail file that would bring down very important people. Reminds me very much of the information on the Cabal, kind of, right? Yep. So it's very, very similar in structure to that. It's just like spy thing 101. It's flash drive or something that has all the details and secrets against powerful people, and she needs to prove that she's not the one that stole it so that she can get this bounty off her head. That's essentially all it.
It's a microdot hidden behind my ear.
Could be. You never know.
Inside the back of my earring.
So go on to Red. Red knows Liz's beloved mother is alive, said sarcastically. Is taking pills and struggling with an illness that we don't know what it is, but it induces tremors and apparently fainting. And also, he's struggling with her position, Liz's position in terms of him. Were you surprised by that this is a thing again?
That it's a thing again? No. Isn't that the whole show from season 1?
I think so.
I like Red. I don't like Red. I like Red. I don't like Red.
Is she on his side or against him? So Red decides to test her. And once again, I say, what person does a test like this? This is one of those things that drives me crazy because I know fans love James Spader and they love Red and they will defend him to the end of the earth. But I just see this as such a negative relationship. I just don't see positivity here. You can care about somebody and still treat them like garbage. And to me, by leaving her in the dark constantly, that's what you're doing.
Look at me as an example. Still sitting here 7 years later dealing with Aaron. Treats me like garbage. Wow. But still cares for me.
Open a door. I'll run out. Let's go. We'll end this today. Bam. We'll have our own cliffhanger. No. Yeah. It's just it's an abusive relationship in many ways, in my opinion. So I've never been a fan of that whole lying thing. I've never been dishonest, only withholding. Once again, Troy and I greatly disagree on this. Troy says omittance isn't lying. I say it absolutely is. He's omitting. He's causing her pain. He's a liar.
He's a withholder.
That's dishonest to me.
We didn't say it was honesty or dishonesty. We said it was lying or not lying.
He says, I'm never dishonest. That's what he said in the episode. I'm never dishonest, only withholding. Bull. You are absolutely dishonest. Just because you don't flat out make a statement that is confirmed 100% to be a lie, the way you go about things is very dishonest.
That's why I don't give yes or no answers, because then you can't be accused of being dishonest.
I just don't have a definitive opinion.
I just withhold my opinion. There you go.
Yeah, sure. So don't put this on me. Don't raise your voice. This is not my fault. And then he passes out. So this is an important piece of information. This is not my fault. Once again, he says, I'm never dishonest, meaning when he speaks words, because his actions are very dishonest. And I'm a big action guy, but whatever. His words are never dishonest, according to the mythology. And he says, this is not my fault, which would lead us to believe this is not his fault.
Right. The way most people, if they're on the Katarina bandwagon, they're going to probably interpret this as this is not my fault, meaning this is Ilya and Dom's mess. They're the ones that started this whole thing. I'm here trying to pick up the pieces and do what I can, but I can't do anything without implicating myself.
This wasn't my solution. Yeah, this wasn't my solution. I thought she was as dead as a beaver hat. That's what I've never heard before. Which brings me back to, was Red's test fair? His test for Liz, was that fair?
Fair in what regard? Because if I'm a criminal, this test is absolutely the test I do as a criminal.
Hear me out.
As a caring, loving person.
Oh my God, you're doing this again. Yes, if you're someone who supposedly cares for another person, is that a fair test?
No, not at all.
It's an abusive relationship tactic, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't set somebody up for failure. Like if you're a manager of people and you know that by giving them this thing to do and work on that they're going to fail, you don't do that because it's inhumane to set someone up for failure. And that's exactly what he did here. Set her up for failure, even though she passed, but she only passed because she failed, because her mom saved her ass.
It's like, and I'll throw Lexington fans a bone here. It's like when you have a girlfriend or a wife or a husband or a boyfriend or whatever, and you think they're going to cheat on you. So you tell them to go hang out with somebody that you know is prettier, and then you keep tabs on them. Like it's that kind of, it's just abusive. I just don't like it. Ick. The test was very unfair. And I'm going to say it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Red. You don't get it right all the time. That was wrong.
Well, Dembe's told Red he doesn't get it right all the time. The doctor said you need to start telling the people that care about you, or you're going to have people not care about you.
It's true. I'm really curious. Do you have any theories or ideas on the illness, by the way?
Shakes, tremors, Parkinson's comes to mind.
It's the first thing I thought of. But why wouldn't you just tell her you had Parkinson's? Just because of pride?
Yeah. You're the criminal mastermind of this giant empire. You know, you don't want anybody to know you're weak, right? It's like the mob. You know, you never show weakness. You always show you're in control so that you can keep going with what you have.
All right, well, Liz, I don't even care who Reddington is. So she's at the point where she just doesn't care anymore.
Well, she was at that point, 18 episodes ago when she said, "I love you."
True.
So this isn't news. Some people are going to be like, "What do you mean? Like, we all want to know who he is."
Yeah, we care. Apparently, Liz is over it.
Right.
Because she's never going to get the answer from him anyway, so why bother? That's a way to get her out from answering the question or asking the question all the time, I suppose.
But it could also be the way that the writers are going to be like, "We're never going to tell you."
Tune in for the final episode.
This feels like the Lost thing. It's like, you're not going to get the answers you're looking for. We're going to give you the answers that we want to give you.
Well, I honestly think, there's a good possibility, and I know you love your theory, and I've given weight to it. There's a possibility there. I'm not ruling that one out completely, even though I don't subscribe necessarily to it. But there are a lot of ways it can go still. There are a lot of ways, and I'm praying actually that it goes somewhere we've never considered. I really think that would be amazing, just to blow our socks off. I don't know if that's possible at this point because we've thought about so many different options, and I'm sure somebody's guessed it.
What I don't want to have happen though is this Sokorski archive is like the last piece of the puzzle, and Red has just been somebody that's been in the mix, like at the last minute, like within the last 10 years, let's say. Not 10, because that'd be like really close to the show, because Wrestler was chasing him for 5. But you know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with Katarina, it has nothing to do with Dom and everything we saw in Cape May, everything we saw in Rosviet and Kaplan and Requiem. It can't be someone like that. Right. It's got to be, if you're to introduce somebody, it's like, oh, they just came into the picture 15 years ago when this person was dealing with the Sokorski issue. That'd be kind of lame. So it's got to fit the show. It's got to fit all the history that they have shared from the historical context.
I'm sure it will. I have no doubt about that. Yeah. I don't doubt that at all. All right. So here's what we learn about Liz this time. She's debating sides and she's hungry for the truth. And I like that whole, while they were in the kitchen, they're doing like food analogies back and forth, or euphemisms, whatever.
It's a great business plan, by the way, though.
What's that?
Make people park farther away so they work up an appetite.
But I did like after 7 years, I'm not sure what parts are left for Liz, and then Liz does call in Katarina to save Red's life. But here's what we learned at the end. Now there has been some issue. I know fans have had issues with this before, where Liz is kind of quote unquote flip flopping, where she's against Red, she's not against Red, she's against Red, she's not against Red, and here we have that again. But I really dug how this one played out, because I kind of understood the mindset from her. Like, I can defend Liz. I can defend her actions, because I get being for him and against him, because every time she tries to get close to him, he just doesn't help her get to the next step to stay on that path. So she turns the other way, or he does something horrible, or he's behind something that causes revolt. So I get where her character is at, but I like this. She's transforming to go on the offensive now. She's not going to be in the middle anymore. She's officially on Katarina's side. She says, I'm committed to helping her find the truth she's looking for. Anyone who is in my way is in my way, or is in her way is in my way, which means if they're in Katarina's way, they're also in Liz's way. She was afraid of that darkness before. She feared it, worried it might overtake her or swallow her whole. I can't read words today. Overtake her. She's not afraid anymore. She embraces this part of her. You and me and Reddington, I embrace that. And wherever it takes us on the way to the truth, I consider it my destiny. And then she has that really cool animated looking out over the city like Batman. And she says, Mother, it's me. I'm ready. I dug that. I like that ending. I thought that was a great ending. A great way to do a finale and get you amped up for the season when they didn't have a lot to work with.
And it really showcases the fact that she's been learning from Reddington this entire time, over 7 years. But really, at the end of the day, she is still Katarina Rostova's daughter. Mm-hmm. And Katarina Rostova was a ghost. She was a super spy. And so she has those capabilities within her.
I really dug that. I thought that was a great ending. It really kind of stirred emotions. The only thing was that at that ending, the second time I was envisioning Megan doing that whole scene and just getting that shot, looking out over the city, and that could have been really cool too. But I love how this played out. I thought that was a really, really strong ending, and they did a great job.
Which, you know what, they probably could have actually filmed that live action if they could enough social distancing. Because it's just Megan in the shot, right?
Stay back! Megan, get away from the roof.
Yeah, 2 camera people and Megan. It's all you would have needed.
Yeah, I think this worked. I liked what they did here. I think it worked pretty well.
And I love the to be continued at the end, because it just sets up the fact that, okay, we know that this is the start of the story, and it's the launching point for the 8th season.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if it's animated or not animated, but if it's going to be animated again, what a great way to go into issue 2 of the live action animated graphic novel.
And very nice Brian Dennehy dedication at the end.
Absolutely. Well done.
Glad we got it, and I'm glad it was in the finale, because that was the biggest episode of the season, so that is very nice. Well done. And his last episode.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just sad he didn't really get anything more he could say, because Brian Dennehy was a class act. But you know what? This ended, I think, as well as it could. So you ready for your 3 questions?
I am ready.
Okay. Number 1, Brian Dennehy, Dom. For season 8, do you feel, not what they're going to do, because we don't know what they're going to do. Do you feel the best course of action is to kill Dom off completely as a character, or to recast the role so that he can finish whatever the arc was they had planned?
No, the arc is very simple.
No, you don't know what the arc is. So let me ask you again. Do you think you don't know what the arc
The answer is no. You don't recast him.
Okay. See how easy that is? Like straight answers. It's not that hard.
What I would do is it'd be one of those things he recovers, and then Red moves him and hides him somewhere. It's like, we hid him for his own protection, that we don't have to worry about recasting him. You don't have to worry about him showing up on the show again. Like Kirk, he just disappeared, went away. Instead of
killing him off, just you don't have to relive because of the personal trauma.
Unless he's already dead.
Liz did not kill her grandfather.
She's pretty dark. She
didn't kill her grandfather. She didn't.
You're standing in my way because you're standing in her way.
Again, that is a move that this is what Troy and I debated privately. That is a move that they would have to show, because I'm telling you that is way too dark of a step to not show on the TV. And since they had an animation right there, they could have easily done that.
Right. Pinch the tubes, unplug it accidentally on the way out.
No, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Question 2. You ready?
Ready.
Did you notice wrestler's hair move in any animated form?
No. His head was very blocky.
Exactly.
So no, the hair stayed perfectly still.
I firmly have come to the belief that in real life, Diego's hair is actually animated.
That
makes sense.
Even in his little spiel at the front of the episode in quarantine, it was still pretty good.
Didn't move. Amazing stuff. Like, I don't know what this gel is that this guy uses. I don't know if it's cement or what, but it is glorious, and he should market it. he should be their icon. All right. Last question. Question 3. I don't even know if 2 really counts, but it's worth throwing in there. Question 3. Is Katarina Rostova that you see in the show the Katarina Rostova?
No.
Why do you say that?
So many things this season. Just the whole, how she shows up.
Bullet point it.
The fact that Red isn't Ilya. The fact that the Belgrade episode, you want me to kill your daughter? No, I want you to hear my plan. And just this whole like Sokorski Archive concept, and this just really made me think a different way. And then there was the whole, but I'm your daughter, but are you on my side? She doesn't say, sure, you're my daughter, but are you on my side?
Well, she technically has said you're my daughter before. If that's what you're looking for. She has said that.
That's before. What a criminal would do. Manipulate the situation.
I'm just saying you use that as an out. And I'm just saying, well, she has actually covered that base. So it's not like she hasn't done that before.
Oh, I know.
She did say that.
But she's saying it because she's using Liz to get what she needs, and she needs to get to Red, and Liz is the means to get to Red.
According to your belief.
According to my belief.
I will also say no, I don't think she's Katarina.
Which that doesn't mean that my theory is true. Katarina Rostova could really truly be lost to the wind, right? Red doesn't have to be Katarina for this not to be Katarina.
Or it could still be in
hiding. Right. But this person is not Katarina Rostova.
I just said I agree with you.
Yeah. I just want people to be like, I don't want people to make the jump like, oh, because they said that it's not Katarina Rostova, that it automatically makes Red Katarina Rostova. That's not what I'm saying.
There's plenty of options. There really are. You still have whoever Raymond Reddington is truly love Katarina Rostova enough to keep her hidden and is just trying to protect Liz, his dying days. I don't know.
And I think it goes back to the bench scene too from last season.
Or as an uncle or as whatever.
When Ilya was like, well, I found her. I found Katarina. I found her. Like the use of those pronouns, it matters, especially in Blacklist writing.
Pronouns always matter, and they're little things that do add up. So yeah.
And then it really all just means what you actually see on screen, and it's just the writer's way of throwing up a middle finger to you. It is just what it is. Accept it.
But it's an endearing middle finger. It's kind of like with a wink.
Yeah.
It's like, aw.
It's the, haha, we got you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. That was my 3 questions. Anything you want to ask before we close out?
That is the main reason why we watch the show and still watch the show 7 years later. It's the guessing game. It's the fun. It's at that point though, I think season 8 where
we say that every season.
No, this time I'm being adamant. Like this time it's like, I want answers. 8's got to be like boom, 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 boom.
I want the truth. I'll tell you what, man, I don't, and we don't know anything, but this really felt like the way that it ended.
Set up for the final showdown.
It's building to like a final showdown. I mean, because I'm still holding out the possibility that this could be Katarina. In fact, I honestly wish it was, because that would make some
life so
things,
much easier.
Life so much easier, yeah, because that would take a few things off the board and would move things along quite nicely. But at this point, based on what I've heard, until I hear, there's certain things I personally have to hear a certain character say before I will swallow that. And none of them come from Liz because she's the character that's left in the dark the most. So, and that's all Red's fault. I blame him. Because to me, my mind, okay, this just you and me, Troy, right? Nobody's listening. Between you and me, if I have a familial relationship with this woman, which is what the show is basically painting the picture of right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he cares for her in an endearing, familial way. If I have that relationship and I know that this person is not who they claim, if she is in fact not Katarina Rostova, and she is in fact pretending to be Liz's mom, I would 100% tell her, because if I don't, I'm omitting the truth, which puts her in danger.
I think I followed you there.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
You're a dad. You get it.
I get it.
And if your theory's right, that makes him really a big jerk off because that's just wrong.
But if my theory is right,
because if your theory's right, you'd be like, I promise you, not her. Wink, wink. And then slowly starts pulling up his pant leg.
That's another one where he's like, trust me, your mother is dead. Red adamantly said that. And remember, he doesn't raise his voice and he doesn't lie. He just withholds the info. And he's clearly given the info there. Your mom's dead.
Well, to be fair, I mean, wasn't she shot in front of him?
I guess so, but he already knew that Maddie Tolliver was alive when he said that.
No, I don't think he knew at that time.
I think he did.
I could be wrong.
Happens. Go back and watch that one.
You know what? Let's get into the interview. We are poking along here and nobody cares about our rambling. So I want to take a quick second before we do that to say thank you to those of you that are supporting the show by going to Patreon. That's patreon.com. That Blacklist GSM. Special big thanks to our honorary Blacklister, Patricia. Special shout out to our task force members, Lacey, Marilyn, Judy, and Sharon. All those people receive cool gifts, and you can get a cool gift as well for donating at the $20 level or higher. You want a cool t-shirt or a coffee mug? You know you do. You don't have to stay at the $20 level forever, just a few months to get the cool gifts.
And if $20 is too steep, our $5 level gets you early access to all our special episodes. Remember, all those $5 people will get the John Bokenkamp interview first before it goes out to everybody else. So if you want to hear John's wrap-up of the season, $5 over at Patreon, patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Click the $sign in your podcast app or the link in the show notes. Fill the fedora. Get some awesome rewards for yourself. Stay tuned. We're going to be back right after this with Chris and Elise, the editors of episode 719, the Kazanjian Brothers, here on the Blacklist Exposed.
You obviously love podcasts, but are you also a fan of movies and television? Do you want to listen to a show that reviews entertainment honestly and casts pretentiousness to the wind? That debates both film and TV topics in a fun, good-spirited way, while still getting to the heart of why we all love them so much? Then don't miss the award-winning weekly podcast, The Hollywood Outsider, now available on your favorite podcast app or at thehollywoodoutsiders.com.
Hi, it's Megan Boone, and you're listening to Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Well, super glad that we had Chris and Elise here to join us here from the editor's room for this special occasion, 719, the Kazanjian Brothers. This has been much talked about, much planned. A lot of hard effort, a lot of work went into this episode in particular. And people are like, where are the animators? Why don't you have the animators on? Well, they're in London. So we'll hopefully get them. Maybe at some point we can talk to them over the summer during the hiatus and see what they all have to say about this special episode. But transitioning between live action and things that are cartoon, for a lack of a better term, transformational, right? And that's all in the editing to make that happen, the camera shots, the movements, and get the director's vision. And that's why we wanted to bring Chris and Elise on this evening. So much, guys, for stopping by. This is really great to talk to the people that actually make the Blacklist, especially now that everybody has seen the teaser and the outro that actually aired with the cast and the crew, thanking people for the episode and about the situation. That was great.
Before we talk about the episode, I want to ask both of you. We always ask this of everybody. So for Chris and Elise, this is a question for both of you. How did you get into filmmaking? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or was there a moment in your life when that came up?
I guess when I was a kid, I always wanted to act originally. Then I realized I was super awkward in front of the camera, and that would not be realistic. Then cut to 5 years of college of jumping around to various degrees. I finally realized that my heart was always in Hollywood. So I did a little internship in a small town in Indiana that created B-movie horror flicks. And
Nice.
Basically, it was fun. And I basically cut their films for free.
Anything we'd know?
Probably not.
You'd be amazed how much junk I know.
Yeah, they, now I'm trying to think of now I'm on the spot.
Don't worry about it. I was just curious.
It was called Resurrection. I don't know if it ever saw the light of day, but it was like genetically modified corn that made people go crazy. It was very Indiana.
Yeah, that works. I would watch that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pitch for next season.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What was the rest of your journey?
Yeah, but I was cutting that for free, and at start I was like, why would anyone in their right mind want to sit down and do this forever? And then by the end of it, I'm like, I don't want anyone to touch this. This is my baby, and I love it. And at that point, I just knew that editing was the route I wanted to take. So then I moved out here.
Wow, actor to editor. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, my brothers and I would put my dad's 16 millimeter movies with the little projector. And we were sort of into music videos before there were music videos. We'd take the turntable and the speakers, put on the film, play whatever piece of music we thought would sync well with those images. And that's sort of where it got started for me. I went to college. Elise and I are alumni of Indiana University.
Oh, that's
kind of
cool.
why we got hooked up here on the Blacklist. I was working on the Blacklist and saw her resume and immediately called her and said, wait, you went to Indiana University too? Studied. They didn't really have a film department there. It was more television. They had a local PBS station there that we did news pieces for. But I always found myself in the editing room and found a real sort of love of that. And it kind of connected me back with what I had done as a child. And to this day, I think one of my biggest satisfactions on any show that I've worked on has been sort of that marriage between the music and the visuals. And when it hits, it's so powerful and moving. And I think I get the most satisfaction just when I was a little kid, when those moments really connect for me. But I moved out here. I've been here longer than I like to say. I've worked on a lot of TV shows, been very fortunate and lucky. All of my experiences have been positive, but by far this show, because of what it is and what we're allowed to do as editors, is unlike anything that I've ever worked on. There's really not a sense of rules to this. And
chaos. I like it.
Yeah, as an editor, and she can attest to this, it's just such a thrill to work on something like this because we get to dip our toes in so many genres just within one episode. There's fight scenes and car chases. There's sort of psychodrama. There's just great out-and-out dialogue scenes with somebody like Harry Lennox and James Spader, and just a lot of different things just going on in this just one episode. And that happens every single week for everybody. So it's a real joy as an editor to work on something like this because they're really, John Eisendrath and John Bokenkamp have really given us a lot of autonomy. And I really appreciate that, and they rely on us just the same way that we rely on them to write great scripts. They rely on us to have a vision and an opinion and just to say, we think this is really great. Do you agree? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And that's sort of often the challenging of editing. It's always a jigsaw puzzle, and there's no finite way to put it together. And sometimes we think we've unlocked the secret door, and sometimes you got to work a little harder with that lock to get it there. But yeah, it's she and I have been working for the past, this is our 4th season today together. Mm-hmm. And I can attest that I've never worked with a better team of people. The other assistants, the other editors, our post producers, it's just, they're all fantastic. And we really, really enjoy each other's company and challenge each other. There's a competitive spirit among all of us to really cut sort of the best episode. And I think that's fun, keeps it lively.
I think you're answering questions we haven't even asked yet.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well,
great.
I'm sorry. I get started in an
That's
interview
okay.
start to ramble on.
Now,
okay.
now, are you in the same department as Z, or is Z in a different?
He is our post producer. And I will mention the other people just because I think that would be great. Our other editors are Orlando Machado and Dave Post, assistants Mark Pittner and Parrish. And then we have some post people in the office, our post super, post-production coordinator, Walker Davis, Martin Greenwood, our associate producer, Brianna Mosley, or Lang, whichever one she wants to go by. And then our visual effects editor, Benjamin Stokes, and Z Hatley, who is our producer. Yeah. And that is our post-production team. Yeah. All, 12 of us or whatever it is. Yeah. We lunch together. We joke and laugh, put each other down in a really kind of fun way. But it's a tight knit group. In the building that we work in at Paramount Studios in Hollywood, we have a lot of different shows come into that building. It's an editorial building, and they always immediately sort of say, who in the heck are those people sitting together making all that ruckus every day at lunch? And we have to explain to them, most of us have been together a really long time, and we're sort of like this big, as I put it before, dysfunctional family. Yeah. So, yeah. Thanksgiving dinner every day with fights and laughter and that kind of thing.
Because you've been with the show since the start, if I remember correctly, right, Chris?
Episode 3, which was Wu Jing in season 1. And I've been here a long time, and people question my sanity, but it's been a fun ride. So,
and Elise, why don't you elaborate? Tell us what an editor does, because a lot of people don't, believe it or not. I mean, we know what it is, and I have a hard time explaining. No, it's people that put everything together, but doesn't it just come out that way? No, that's not how it works. So, what does an editor do?
Yeah, we do. I feel like a lot of people think that they shoot everything in order, and we just a word we get a lot is assemble the picture, as if it's just putting pieces together. But what really happens is they shoot various scenes in a day, and we will get that footage. And basing it off the script, we'll watch everything that we've been sent and just kind of select the best looking shots, the best performances and edit everything all together? This is kind of a hard question to put it into words. But we piece the whole show together, and I feel like we kind of have the final word on like constructing the story, because sometimes what's written on paper isn't really what you're seeing on the screen, or isn't conveyed the way that you like pictured it as it was written. So we then have to construct a way to get that story point across to push the story along. And certain things, especially in TV, you have a certain time limit that you have to hit. So the script could be really long, and we're having to decide what scenes or portions of scenes and dialogue to remove to still move the story forward, hit our time limit, but also not lose what's on the paper and what the story is truly about and what we're trying to show.
But that can be pressure. That can feel like a lot of pressure, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like Chris said earlier, sometimes things just fall right into place and you just kind of get on a roll. And then other scenes, you will sit on it for what feels like the entire day before you get 3 cuts in, because you're just trying to piece it all together and make sure it looks right. And you start heading down a path, and then you realize that you hit a dead end and you can't go the direction you want to go, and you have to go all the way back to the start and try and rework where you began. And
one of the easiest ways to explain it to someone is for me to just say, every time you see the picture change as you're watching the episode, that's a conscious decision. With each time you're cutting to a different angle, to a different cut, to a different performance. And they shoot with 3 cameras every day. So that's 3 cameras for every single take. So you have 3 choices just there about deciding what angle you would like to play James Spader's line in. And that's the easiest way to describe it, is every time you see that picture change, there's a decision behind that. So, and we're talking about in our show, probably upwards of 1,500 times you'll see the picture change in the course of an episode. So
this time was a lot more complicated.
It's taking a lot of different variables into consideration, but still trying to craft your most exciting episode with the level of storytelling and certainly understandability through that entire plot that you need to achieve. And that's often where cutting time out of the show becomes most difficult, because you still have to keep that thread line and the plot together so it all makes sense. And our show moves at such a rapid pace that can be difficult for sure. So
sometimes it's hard too. Like, we live with it for so long that I'll go to Chris and be like, oh, I think we can take this line out. Like, we don't need it. And then when we take it out, it's like, oh, wait, we know what the story's supposed to be, but without it, it's like, oh, other people who are seeing it for the first time don't. So sometimes it's difficult that you have to step back and see like the full picture of things, because you watch it over and over and over again. You know the story so well that you have to remember people are just watching it for the very first time. And so that can be challenging to.
So like, unlike the actors, because the actors, I mean, what people don't, a lot of times when they don't understand how filmmaking works, a lot of actors, they don't have to know anything except their lines. So they might not know the rest of the story at all. You guys have to actually know the entire script.
Yes, we
week
do.
to week.
Yeah. And that's where Bokenkamp and Eisendrath are, really important to us, because as Elise said, we sometimes lose objectivity and we think a line can be pulled out. And then one of the Johns will say, no, I think we need to put that line back because it's going to link up to something later on in this episode. And we said, okay, yeah, you're right. We forgot about that. Or sometimes they're laying the groundwork for something to come episodes ahead. And by taking out some sort of line, it's now not going to be threaded to what's inherently there 5 or 6 episodes in the future. So that's something that we're not privy to, but always very, it's good to know all about that. And they're good about reminding us, just say, don't touch places in this dialogue here because this is going to lead us to somewhere else we want to go script-wise.
Especially with all the lexical ambiguity that the show uses to try to keep people in that guessing game 7 seasons in. You cut one of those out and it changes the entire scene to something completely different.
That is for sure. That is for sure.
Does anyone have the specific job of we're getting ready to tell you a big secret and then somebody saves them and then they do the cutaway? Does anybody have that particular job? Because that happens a lot.
No, I don't.
That's Hank's job. Hank, will you make sure to get Dembe out of the room without spilling anything? Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Troy. Lead into this episode.
Yeah, let's talk about what we have coming up here with this particular episode. You have live action that was shot. A lot of the stuff done in the post office, obviously, because they all shoot most of the post office stuff on the same day there in New York. And then the different on-location shots where some of those didn't make the cut for COVID and before the shutdown. So we had to go the animation route. What was it like, first and foremost, to see the animation cells? And then, because it has that fluidity to it. Now, granted, this is more, I think when we originally first thought about it, it was going to be more like panels and more 2D animation than it was actually going to be the 3D renderings. But when you guys saw the 3D renderings for the first time, what was your experience seeing it for the first time? Where you're like, oh my gosh, this is great, or how the hell are we going to work with this?
I think we called each other and it was like, this is cool. This is awesome. Because we starting out, we went through many permutations of the animation, and we were talking about this earlier, but the animation when we first started was basically black and white, grayscale, floating people, going across the room. And that's what we got to cut first. And then eventually I was very envious of Chris at first because he kept getting his scenes first and he would get the more animated footage coming in. And it looked very cool just to see like the evolution of the shots. Was just something, it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was almost like it was much more refined than stick figures, but a lot of just sort of bodies with heads and no facial expressions, and just everything was gray. So you'd see an environment, you'd see something that looked like, as an example, there's a scene in the kitchen with Red and Liz. So you'd sort of see like a chef, and he was sort of had something maybe in a pan, but you couldn't tell if the stove was working or what was happening. And eventually the evolution of all of that, I think, was the most exciting thing for Elise and I. I think that's, the moment she's talking about when we called each other, because it was very exciting to see that change from the gray scales to a little more in-depth detail, but still gray, until finally we just got stuff with color and vibrancy. And we, to be honest with you, didn't believe that we were ever going to get sort of moving lips associated with any of this stuff because of the short timeline. We were told beforehand, we don't think this is going to be a doable thing to give you moving lips from Proof, the people that were doing all the animation. So,
it was only 2 months, right? Like 2 months, roughly.
Oh gosh,
5 weeks. I think.
5 weeks.
Even less.
It was a very, very short turnaround.
It was great for 6 months, let alone 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So when we started to see things with moving lips, we were just, it was just really exciting. It was really exciting to see the evolution of all that take place. And I think the Johns had started off with the initial idea that they were going to do something akin to radio theater and have the actors just read their parts and maybe use panels, very close to the Blacklist comic book that came out in the first couple of seasons, and just have panels, faces, sort of just things with backgrounds, but not really anything specific. And the fact that we were able to get actually more than what we were going to get live action, the Washington Mall scene and the first act is a great example of that, because I'll be honest with you, live action wise, that was probably just going to be shot somewhere that had some scope and cinematic value to it. And we probably get some wide shots and some really interesting stuff, because that's what we always get. But we weren't going to be able to lock down the Washington Mall and have our actors walk through there and do that. That's just not a doable thing anymore. So the fact that we got something like that was amazing. And, sort of opened our eyes to the idea that we can, if you can imagine it, we can probably do that. So that was really cool.
And I gotta admit, the action scene was actually really cool. I was into it, and I'm like, it's animation. I forgot.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of those things where in the live action you get maybe a lot of different takes, and someone would be firing a gun, and the gun wouldn't really go off when it's supposed to, or somebody would act like they're getting hit, and fall back at the wrong time, and just a lot of variables that always happen when you're shooting that stuff live action. But in animation, they can do whatever they want to do. Oh, you want him to lean over here and sort of slide, and the bullet slide past him and hit the walls. And then I think John Bogenkamp had the idea to put those little panels up at the last minute, the bap, 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 like the gunshots were going on. Yeah. It's really cool stuff like that we, sort of, it's out of our purview in live action, but definitely whatever you want to do, I feel like it's fair game with the animation, which is fantastic. It opens it up a lot.
So were the panels you guys then, or was were like the BAMs and the Act 1 and Act 2, was that VFX and you guys doing that, or was that actually Proof doing it out in London?
It was VFX and us. So Bogenkamp came up with the idea, and then VFX, we talked to them about the different things we wanted to say, and then JB on one of the later meetings, he's like, what if we do like the classic comic blam blams and bang bangs for the gunfire? And so we tacked that on, and it kind of laid in just real nicely with the picture. So that was VFX over the animation. Yeah,
one of the toughest things we had to deal with, which we worked with our visual effects house Fuse in New York, was to get some sort of transitional element between the live action and the animation, because we realized very early on, and Bogenkamp and Eisendrath were on this from day one, is we're not going to be able to just hard cut from the live action to the animation. We need some sort of transition. So what you're seeing there, those what we call them transitional glitches, when you're sort of seeing the picture sort of devolve and spread out, and you're hearing the sound effect of something happening. And the first occasion of that is, of course, when Liz transforms into the animated form. But, and another good one is the Washington Mall, where we go from a stock shot of the Washington Mall live action and then go into a sweeping overhead of the Capitol Dome. But we are also, the visual effects house in New York is creating this sort of like thing to get us worked into the animation and feeling it like it's something cool, and we're moving into a different space and world.
And I felt like that actually belonged in the show, because it was very reminiscent of the title card sequence when you have the.
That's actually that's very good, Troy, because we I think it was JD.
His ego.
He came up with the idea of the sound, from the main title card, and that kind of like melding of those sort of images all together with that hard sort of sound that I like to refer to as peeling your face off that at the end of the main title.
That's what it makes you think of, huh?
Well, when you sit on a sound stage and you hear it really loud. It's really crazy loud.
That's all I'm going to think of every time I hear it now.
Yeah.
But I think the critical part of that, why that works, is because your team specifically was able to match the live action still in that cut to what the first cell of the animation was going to be, and being able to allow that to happen, to do the blend in the VFX if you don't have that start point and that end point from your team, I don't think it works as well as it does. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah, and those transitions work great.
Yeah, there's a bit of a moving target with that too. I mean, given the fact that as editors we have a choice about maybe the angle or the shot that we leave whatever live action scene with, and I know for a fact that John Eisendrath had wanted very much to go from the transition of wrestler on the couch in the animated version to a shot of wrestler in a closer angle when he's talking to Liz, and then Aram comes in the door to give them some information. But transitionally, we're always sort of striving to come up with what would be the best marriage of the live action and the animation. So, yeah, there's definitely a thought process behind that. And for the most part, that was super fun to work on and creative. We were running out of time at the very end to kind of lock all that down. So there was a bit of a deadline looming, which can make it exciting and stressful at the same time.
So. Are you guys working down to the wire on this one? I mean, because it feels like you guys were working to the very last second to get this done.
Yeah, we were putting in massively long hours. I think Elise had one day where I don't even want to say what time she went to sleep. It was about
a 22-hour day.
Yeah.
So
oh my God.
It was long.
Yeah. So yeah, we were pulling some really long hours, and I think we got caught sort of dealing with this chasing the sun kind of endeavor where Proof in London, the animation house, was turning stuff over to us. And we try to cut all those new updated shots into our cut. Then we would have a meeting with them at 10 a.m. our time, but 7 p.m. their time. So their day was finishing and ours was sort of already starting. And then we would again in the morning do that again, but we were they were ahead of us and we were behind them. And then it wasn't just the Proof team in London. There's another Proof team in Atlanta that was working exclusively on the Act 2 stuff that Elise was handling. And that was the great sequence with the shootout, chasing the Kazanjian brothers. So that was a little tough too, because London had gotten involved and had maybe a week or maybe even like a 10-day head start on Atlanta. So they were really hustling to get their stuff together and turned over at the end. And they were the Scene 22 stuff, the Act 2 stuff, and the shootout stuff was the last step to kind of lock because of that. So that was a little, definitely a lot of pressure to get all that done. But yeah, we literally yesterday were mixing the show, which is crazy because it's airing on Friday. Tomorrow. Yeah. So we don't like to be up against it like that, but this harkens back to season 1 and season 2 and sometimes in season 3 where we really just were delivering the show with literally a day left to get it on the air. And thankfully it always worked out, but it's a little stressful. That's for sure.
Now, do you guys go back and rewatch? Have you seen do you watch every episode after you edit them, or does it just drive you crazy because you're going to see every tiny little thing you might not have done?
I think Elise and I are both we need to step away from the episode because we've been working so hard and so long on it. And I know for me, and she might mirror this sentiment, but I just need a little time to get a critical eye back on it. But we work really hard to get it in that sort of great position where we're not sort of watching it with, like this, through our fingers. And it's amazing to me. I've gone back and watched episodes from seasons past and just gone, it felt like such a tornado while we were in it. But now watching it, it just feels so great. I mean, it's just like it really came together at the end. You're kind of marveling at all these separate elements all flying in a blender together and coming up with something that you could put on a 5-star restaurant, So
I try not to watch it again. I usually, since I will go through various turnovers to the various people who collaborate with making the final picture. So I watch it every time I send it out to someone. So after a while, it becomes quite a lot. So yeah. I'm usually happy to kind of step away.
We've probably watched the episode. She's watched it more than I have, but I probably watched it 30 times, 40 times. She's 50, 55, 60 times. So yeah, we need a little space. And actually, to be honest with you, the way our schedule is, we don't have time to focus on things in the past. We're already working on a new episode because that's already being shot. We're getting dailies for that. So we've got to start cutting that. So it's really kind of, I've always equated it to sort of your Beatles 4-track recording where get in the studio, do your best. We're not going to do a bunch of overdubbing here. Just knock it out, And I think for Elise and myself, because we've been on the show, we know the aesthetic of it. We know what camera angles are great and what really works. And Spader and all the cast are great. So, I mean, it's much easier when you kind of know the size of the line coming out of the tunnel at you, and we can't really focus on things. We have a nice, maybe sort of retrospective moment at the end of the season, but man, when we're in it, and we're pushing forward just so much of the time.
So they're shooting in tandem in New York. So are you guys editing in tandem then as well, or do you guys have to focus on the one episode since there's other departments that are relying on your cuts as they come out?
Yeah, we're usually playing catch up towards the end of us trying to lock an episode. So the way it works is there's just a rotation, and when that next rotation is up, we're up too, and so we're usually in a situation where we're locking something, we're trying to put the finishing touches on it, but also getting the new material and trying to focus on that as well. So it's a challenge. But I just have to say that it's such a collaborative process as well, from the standpoint that the Johns are great. We have a great composer, Dave Porter. We have a great music supervisor, John Bissell. We have great sound mixers, Elmo and Frenchie. Great sound supervisor, Jason George. None of this would happen without all those people involved and just putting a great shine on all of these episodes. And of course, it really has to start at the script level and with your actors too. We've often been tasked with trying to sort of see if we can guide a performance in a certain direction. But I'll be honest with you, if it's there organically, and James Spader is doing his normal stuff, it's tough to cut away from somebody with that much on-camera charisma. And I think that's why the show is successful, is because you're just riveted when James Spader is talking, and so that's always a challenge for editors, is to decide when we might cut away from James Spader, because oftentimes it feels like, we can't cut away from him. He's doing a 1-minute soliloquy and it's brilliant. And, maybe we'll cut to a shot of Dembe for a great reaction, or Liz or somebody, but Spader is just, he's a tour de force as far as acting goes, and just brings a whole nother level to this show. We're as editors, we're always thankful when the actors just, bring that beauty of acting to the screen, and our job is so much easier because of it. So
how does it feel now that the season is over? Are you guys elated? Are you feel like you just survived the war?
I was joking with my husband, since with Corona, we had to bring our editing systems home. Mm-hmm. And I feel like all I've been doing is getting up, going into the office, going to the dining room table to eat, going back to the office, and doing it all over again. I think he'll just find me sitting in the office staring at a blank screen because I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing with my time.
It's been interesting because of the pandemic. We lost, episode 20, 21, and 22. And at least what I would normally be on episode 22, the finale. So as far as a time frame, we would normally be ending around this time anyway. So we were very fortunate to be able to continue to work, even from our homes. And I sentiment her sort of tale. It feels like you get coffee in the morning and you instantly go to work, and you can work in your PJs. And it's just, part of me likes it and part of me doesn't. But I think we're both collectively happy with the final product and happy that we have a little time to rest. Yeah.
Let's talk stats a little bit. I mean, this is a monumental feat. So we've mentioned lock the picture a few times in the interview here. And so lock is obviously when it's done, but there's iterations that you're always sending to the Johns. So in a typical episode, how many iterations is there? And then for this particular episode, how many more iterations was there as you went through?
So typically for our show, we do an editor's cut, a director's cut. And as far as official cuts, we'll go Studio Network twice, and then we'll lock picture. Every now and then we'll have a couple what we call work in progresses that we send to the Johns, that we work out some things before we go to Studio Network. So that's 5, I guess.
Well, and sometimes we could have 2 or 3 whips to go to both of the Johns because it is a work in progress. So,
For this one, it was uncountable. I'm not it's a blur.
Uncountable. That's a lot.
But we would be sending, if not a full cut, we'd send either like all the animation sequences to the Johns almost nightly. If not to the Johns, we'd make sure we'd send everything that was updated to the animation department so that they were on top. So every night we were sending something out. As far as cuts, it was quite a bit. We did we kind of added a few Studio Network cuts to go out to them a little bit more so that they could see the progression of the animation. And it was every night though, we had something going out. Big or small.
Yeah, the animation element to it all actually create a lot of new workflow because with the live action, we can get that pretty locked down, making some changes here and there per the Johns. But with the animation and the constant updating from the grayscaling to more full animation, they were able to take a new perspective on all of that. So we were having to send a lot of that animation out much more often than we would normally do the live action. So,
and it was kind of a blessing and a curse having the ability to you could look at the animation and completely change the shot that you wanted there. That's cut in that specific part, or like when you saw the animation a little more developed, some of the things we realized, like the kitchen scene that Chris worked on, you ended up having to re-edit that because the first iteration of it, the Johns didn't feel like there was enough people or an action kind of going on around them, and they sent Chris a whole slew of new shots, and you recut it, and it was difficult but worth it because it looks amazing with all the action going on in that scene. So it was kind of
that's one element of the animation which is really a head turner, which is we got the first version of that kitchen scene and Eisendrath and Bogenkamp just said this isn't what we were imagining, what we were seeing in our mind. So we want to see wider shots. We want to see shots through shelving of plates. We want to see big overhead shots. They're kind of creating a shot list of wants and desires and passing that on to the animators, which is really sort of crazy from the standpoint that we don't do that sort of thing in live action. And we certainly don't take what was shot and say, nah, I don't think we're going to use that. Let's go a different path, you know?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And I think the other thing we would like to interject about the animation is just the fact that we sort of did the process a little bit in reverse. Most of animation projects work from a standpoint that you've got sort of rudimentary storyboards, but you've recorded all the dialogue. So what happened with us is that when they decide to do the animated version, we need dialogue read and sort of put underneath these rough animations. Well, at that point, the actors didn't have the mics that were sent to them at home. Mm-hmm. So Elise was playing Liz Keene, and I was playing Red Reddington, and I did a horrible job.
Can we do a scene? Let's do a scene. Come on, do a scene. Come on.
Do it.
We had some people that were good. I think
we had one of the editors, Orlando. He did Nishan, one of the Kazanjians who speaks Russian, and he went to the extent of reaching out to one of our mutual friends to make sure he was pronouncing the Russian correctly and recording all the lines in Russian.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So basically, because we had this animation coming in, we needed the rough, what they call the scratch tracks, to lay all this scene out, this sequence out. We needed the dialogue that we still had not had from the true principal actors. So we had to kind of, all the editors pitched in, all the assistants pitched in. We got everybody in our post department. Elise had her husband do lines. I had my daughter do lines, my wife do lines, just so in the sort of context of getting this all together, even if it wasn't the true actors' voices, we had to get this thing laid out. We couldn't wait. We didn't have the time to do that. And then eventually the actors' real dialogue came in, and we would lift out what we had in there temporarily and put theirs in. But even with that, if they were reading the lines a little slower or more quickly, we would have to sort of curtail the picture to adjust to that difference in rhythm and speed. So it was a challenge from that standpoint, because in live action, you're not dealing with that kind of stuff. And because this idea came to John's very late in the process, we were sort of doing it in not the right way, which created, a little havoc and mayhem. But eventually, once we did get the principal's dialogue in there, it all sort of like felt more like our show and not just editors giving horrible readings of lines. Elise does a good Liz. But my red was good. My Reddington is horrible. Let me tell you.
Come on, do a scene. It's okay.
I can't do it. I have not mastered that sort of
the gravelly,
the beat that he takes, and I can't get the lips. It's just like and it's tough too, because it's like not seeing Spader, sort of on screen is a little disconcerting too, even when you're hearing his voice. And you don't have something to match with. It's like we're all imagining what he's doing now in our head, what we're seeing in our mental imagery. And so it's difficult not to have live action James Spader, but really cool to have animated James Spader too, So a cool process. A little weird and a little had some rough spots in it, but very cool in the end product. Yeah.
You guys are both better people than me. I totally would have injected like my voice in one line at least and not told anybody.
Yeah. There was one line, ADR line in the shootout where no one caught for a while that was me. It was because Megan had recorded her lines already, and then I saw these ADR emails coming in. And I was like, you know what? I should probably let someone know that that's not Megan. That's me saying, I think it was a let her go or something. It was after they take the hostage. But no one, our sound supervisor, no one really caught it. I think if I didn't say anything, it would have slipped on by.
there was your acting chance. You just missed it.
Yeah. Missed it.
They wouldn't have known, right? Because I think that was one of the panels where it was like the nose up shot. So it's like they didn't even match the mouth. So it would have worked out perfectly.
I know it's animation, but it would have been fine either way.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
Yeah, if nothing else, hopefully Emmy nomination out of this one for the editing.
Oh man, there
amazing.
should be some Emmys in this one. Just for the sheer thing, the feat you guys pulled off should be rewarded in some fashion.
I think it was about that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Network shows just don't get their due anymore. It's really about the streaming shows. I think we sort of missed our chance maybe in season 1 and season 2, but it just wasn't something that we were really hyper focused on or anything. And so it's a very satisfying show to work on. Just because I think it really resonates with the people that watch it, and the experience for us is really enjoyable. So yeah, no, I'll keep my little Hollywood Boulevard plastic statue that I have.
Well, I just want to say, much like you, Elise, Hollywood's always been in my blood. I just never got there. Kids, they ruin everything. But but because of that, because I studied filmmaking at a very young age, so I know what all the different jobs are. And knowing that, a lot of people have no idea what editors do for a big portion of the time. They don't realize, especially with television, a movie editor, they get months to work on the final product. People don't realize that sometimes. Where a TV editor, you guys have to crank out basically a movie every single week. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I admire you guys. I really, legitimately, it's not just blowing smoke. I really admire what you do every week. And I know fans do. They don't realize that they appreciate it as much as they do because Spader's great. He gets a lot of credit. Megan's great. They get a lot of credit. The Johns are great. Editors make everything work. And if you don't have a good editor, your show or your movie sucks. So it's very important, and I really do appreciate what you guys do.
We're gonna put that on the side and put it up in our room, Aaron. Thank you for that.
I mean that.
That means a lot, and I think the people on the show have always been very grateful to us and shown us a lot of respect. And again, I can't say enough about the autonomy we're given. But I have to thank Eisendrath and Botenkamp for just allowing us to do the jobs that we feel that we should be doing. So yeah, there's joy in the hard work, because I feel like at the end of the day, there's something that's really exciting on the screen. And I was thinking about this just the other day is I'm not going to cast aspersions on other network shows, but our network show does not look like any other network show.
No, it doesn't.
And I'm very proud of that. And it has a lot to do with the camera angles and the lighting, of course, our actors and the writing. But it just presents itself as something that feels much better than network, should I say.
Between your actors, your writers, your editors, and special effects and everything else going on, it's a very perfect team. Really, it's a beautiful meshing of talents.
Yeah, it's been fun for sure.
Well, Chris, Elise, thank you so much for everything you did. Thanks so much for being here. Chris and Elise were on the watch party as well. So if you haven't had a chance to see the watch party, head on over to the YouTube channel and check out the watch party as well. Some new nuggets from that as we watch the show live. So check that out over at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Blacklist Exposed podcast. And Chris, where can people find you on the socials, or at least where can they find you?
I am a socially shy person, I think. So I'll just leave that to Elise.
At EL Hollow is where you can find me on Instagram.
EL Hollow, like El Hollow, the Hollow?
It was my college email address, really. I'm very creative.
That works.
But yeah, ELHOLLOW. So.
Well, thanks, you guys. We've had a blast.
All right, guys. Well, we'll let you go. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you for sure.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
All right. Well, that that'll conclude the finale discussion, but we have one more podcast left this season. John will be here to look back on number 7 and what we may expect to see in season 8. We aren't sure when exactly, but hopefully it'll come. 6 seasons are already on Netflix, and 7 will be on there sometime this summer, we believe. So now is the time to recommend The Blacklist to your friend, your enemy, your neighbor. So hopefully by the time we get done with season 6, 7 will be on there. They can go roll right into that. And when you do, please recommend that you listen and subscribe to the Blacklist Exposed podcast. All the case profiles can be found at theblacklistexposed.com and everywhere great podcasts can be found.
More great Aaron and Troy hijinks. That's us. You can go check out some of our other works. We did Beyond Westworld. That's beyondwestworldpodcast.com. 3 seasons over there that you can binge while you're riding out the rest of the coronavirus. And then listen to Aaron and I argue and complain and philosophize over there. Aaron also does thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Make sure you go check out thehollywoodoutsiders.com, a weekly irreverent look at movies and television. I pop up there every now and then also to talk about some TV stuff. Aaron also does a good one called Smirk. That's at Smirk Podcast, I believe, on Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah, but it's just Smirk. We do a short original story, and then we talk about whatever is in that story.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. Get some Aaron's writing capability. Maybe he'll write an episode for The Blacklist next year. Who knows?
They invite me. Love to.
All right. Well, big thanks for listening. Don't forget to make sure you subscribe, because if we have any special content throughout the off season, and also when we find out when we're coming back, you want to be notified as quickly as possible. And that only happens if you subscribe to the podcast. You can do that in Apple. You can do that in Spotify, Google, Pandora. I forget all the places we are, but we're everywhere. And we just crossed 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So thank you to all of you that are over there on the YouTube channel as well. Check that out. Again, watch parties are up there from the last couple of episodes of season 7. Make sure you go view those as well if you have not seen them. They're a lot of fun. And just remember, keep yourself off
the blacklist.
Thanks so much for a great season, everybody. We'll see you next week with John. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.
Hey, great talking to you too, Troy.
Absolutely.
22 frickin' times at least, minimum this year.